You're sitting in the car. The night just ended. You laughed, you talked, you were completely present. Nothing went wrong. Nobody said anything strange. And yet, as you pull into your driveway, you already feel it. That quiet, heavy exhaustion settling into your chest. You walk inside, sit down on the couch, and you don't want to move. You don't want your phone. You don't want music. You don't even want to think. You just need everything to stop. And the strange part, you actually had a good time. So why does your body feel like it just ran a marathon you never agreed to enter? Here's what almost nobody talks about. For some people, being around others is never just being around others. There's a second layer running underneath, constantly reading the room, tracking expressions, measuring tone, adjusting what you say and how you say it, reviewing what you just said 5 seconds ago. And this process is so quiet, so automatic that you don't even notice it while it's happening. You only feel it when it's finally over, when the door closes, the room goes silent, and your body exhales everything it was holding. You're not too sensitive. You're not antisocial. Your brain has just been working a second shift, and it has very good reasons for doing that. Let's start with what happens the moment you walk into a room. Before you've said a single word, your nervous system is already scanning the energy in the space. Who seems relaxed? Who seems tense? Whether the person you greeted looks different today? Whether that laugh sounded genuine? This isn't overthinking. It's pattern recognition, an automatic process your brain runs to figure out if the environment is safe. But here's the strange part. For some people, this scan never really stops. It runs in the background through the entire interaction, every conversation, every joke, every moment of silence. And because it's invisible, nobody around you knows it's happening. They see someone relaxed, engaged, present. They don't see the system quietly running beneath the surface, tracking everything, storing everything, preparing for anything. Psychologists call this heightened social monitoring, and it often starts early, in environments where reading the room wasn't optional, where the moods of the people around you had consequences, where you learned young that noticing kept things smooth, that paying attention kept you safe. That brain never forgot. It carried that lesson into every room it entered after that, into every dinner table, every work meeting, every casual hangout with people you actually like. The exhaustion after isn't weakness. It's the cost of a system that never got the signal it could stand down. But something else is happening beneath the surface. Think about the last time you were in a group and shifted just slightly to fit the energy around you. You became a little funnier if people were playful, a little quieter if the mood turned serious. You softened an opinion around someone who seemed fragile. You adjusted your tone without consciously deciding to. Most people do this to some degree. It's how social connection works. But for some, this adjustment isn't a small background process. It's total. Every interaction requires building a version of yourself calibrated to this person, this dynamic, this specific moment. And constructing that version takes real energy. Holding it together takes concentration. The moment you're finally alone, the scaffolding comes down, and the weight of holding it up for hours lands at once. This isn't about being fake. It's about something that goes much deeper than that. It's about attachment, about learning early that belonging sometimes required you to become what the moment needed. The chameleon doesn't change colors because it chooses to. It changes because changing once kept it alive. And this is where it gets really interesting. Even in conversations you genuinely enjoy, maybe especially in those conversations, your brain is doing something exhausting underneath the words. It's not just processing what's being said, it's processing what's meant. The pause before someone answered, the way their expression shifted, the slight change in their voice, the thing they started to say and then didn't. In a moment, we'll explain why some people feel energized after socializing, while others feel completely depleted by the same evening. But first, you need to understand what's actually happening inside the mind during that time. Researchers sometimes call this hypervigilance to social cues, and it shows up most often in people who grew up around emotional unpredictability. when the adults around you were inconsistent, warm sometimes, cold other times, fine and then suddenly not. Your developing brain concluded that surface level reading wasn't enough. You needed to go deeper. You needed to get ahead of the shift before it arrived. And so the brain became a decoder, fluent in subtext, always translating beneath the words. That skill serves you. You're often the first to notice when a friend is quietly struggling. You read dynamics most people walk straight through. You feel things in a room before anyone names them. But it runs at a cost, because the decoder doesn't stop when the conversation ends. It keeps running, replaying, re-examining, asking whether you read it right, whether you responded the right way, whether something subtle was missed. That's the 10 p.m. exhaustion after a perfectly pleasant evening. That's the tiredness that makes no logical sense until you understand what your mind has been silently doing all day. Now, about why some people leave a party feeling energized while others feel completely depleted by the same evening. It comes down to what socializing asks of the nervous system. For people whose social experience is mostly surface, enjoy the moment, go home, done. The interaction deposits energy. It's stimulating without being costly. But for people whose nervous system is running the deeper scan, every interaction is also a processing task. The mind is not just present in the room, it's working the room, filing information, making calculations, managing risk, and that kind of labor, even when invisible, has a very real metabolic cost. The quiet people leave with a surplus, the vigilant people leave with a deficit. Same party, completely different internal experience. Something else shifts as you get older, and this is what makes this feel so personal, so layered over time. When you're younger, the monitoring often feels like strength, like control, like if you pay close enough attention, you can manage the outcome, keep the peace, make sure everyone's okay. And sometimes it works. The people around you feel seen. They call you the thoughtful one, the perceptive one, the one who always notices. And you begin to build an identity around the vigilance because it seems like something you do well. But somewhere along the way, usually after one too many nights of coming home feeling hollowed out, something quieter starts asking a different question. What about me? Who's reading the room for me? That question isn't a breakdown, it's development. The exhaustion that once felt like failure begins to reveal itself as information. The body saying, this is a lot. The mind beginning to wonder whether there's another way to exist in a room. That wondering isn't a problem. It's a sign that something in you has started to grow beyond the system that once protected you. Because underneath everything, the drain has always been protecting something. The monitoring, the adjusting, the hyper-awareness, all of it is a regulation strategy, a way of making the unpredictable feel manageable. When you know what someone is feeling, you know what's coming. When you know what's coming, you can prepare. When you can prepare, you don't get blindsided. For a nervous system that once learned that surprise meant danger, this is everything. The social vigilance isn't anxiety. It's a solution to anxiety. It's the mind building a blanket out of information, wrapping itself in data so it feels less exposed, less like it might get caught off guard by something it didn't see coming. That isn't dysfunction. That's adaptation. A remarkably intelligent one, actually, built at a time when the environment required it. And the body still runs it faithfully, even now, even when the original threat is long gone. So if you're someone who drives home from a good night already running on empty, who needs hours of silence after spending hours with people you love, whose body starts asking for stillness before the evening is even over, now you know what's been happening inside you. And here is the part worth sitting with. The same mind that exhausts itself in social situations, that reads subtext, tracks energy, notices the subtle shift in someone's voice, is also the mind that sees people more clearly than almost anyone else. It's the mind that notices when someone is hurting before they say a word. It feels the weight of a room the moment it shifts. It offers presence in a way that most people never experience and never forget. The sensitivity that costs you energy is the same sensitivity that makes you rare. The vigilance that drains you is the same vigilance that makes the people around you feel genuinely seen. You were not built for easy rooms. You were built for real ones. The exhaustion you feel after being around people isn't a flaw, it's the shadow of a gift, evidence of a mind that has always, quietly, cared more than it knew how to say.